fancy intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel, and this one I actually am really excited for because we're talking about the Interceptor Strike Team. Now, when I say excited, let me be clear, I still hate the Strike Team as a premise. Like, it came and evaporated, eviscerated, and exterminated the meta for PvP. And whether you like it or dislike it, that's just how it happened. But I will say, if we're talking about just how things work, just how they work dang good. They work really good. Now, do they work as good as the Battleship team? I probably still have Battleship team as my top, but I do want to show you some interesting stuff about Damar. You know what? Let's just say, you already know who they are. They're the only Cardassians in the game. They're the only ones. So let's jump in here and talk about them sort by group. We're going to go over their abilities and everything first. Then we'll talk about logs, and I will show you Saladins using them. I'll show you Sanctus using them, and we'll kind of discuss the pros, cons of the Interceptor Strike team as a whole. So we're going to start with Dukat. He's the top. Now, real quick, where's the button? Bam. I want to show you this. Hoopla. These are all three of them, and we'll cover this here at the end. We'll go over all three of them, but these are all their abilities and how they scale. Shout out to STFC.space. And also, by the way, for those who are wondering, because we're a minute and a half into this, no, the title is not clickbait. We will, in fact, be talking about a potential leaked event that happened today for those who missed it. So don't worry. Stay tuned. Watch to the end of the video and you'll see it, because I know some of you clicked for only that reason. So let's talk about Dukat, Prefect of Bajor as captain. Now, this is a crew. We talked about the Explorer Strike Team. If you remember, Explorer Strike Team, a little bit different. You do want to, take advantage of the versatility, but not necessarily run full synergy. With this crew, you do want full synergy. You really want all three of them, but you can have effect with them without running all three, if that makes sense. So while on an interceptor fighting a player at the beginning of each round, causing hull breach 100% because I'm running full synergy. And you got Manic Ambition. When shot while on interceptor with hull breach, increases the number of shots per weapon for 5 rounds. And this is extremely effective, especially long term. Now let's move over to Damar, who's arguably the most interesting aspect of this crew, but really at high level. So while on interceptor fighting a player ship, if Damar scores if you score a critical hit, increases the decreases the opponent's critical damage by X amount for 3 rounds per weapon. It's very important to denote that. If you can see why, right under on the top right of the screen, those mathematicians out there, what this simply says is, especially as he tiers up, I've only got tier 2, but at tier 5, especially, he can zero out damage, make it to where your opponent doesn't create any damage. We'll cover that here in a bit off the screen. Now, as a captain, while interceptor with hull breach scores a critical hit, increases critical hit chance during the battle. So pretty good captain's ability and officer ability combined if you were to put something like Lorca or Gorkon on there. If you did not have the Legate, I'm gonna call him Legate Dukat. Yeah, it's Legate Dukat. It's Dukat. But let's move on to Garak, Outcast Spy. Obviously, we're going to focus on officer abilities for these. While on interceptor fighting a player ship, increases critical hit chance by 35%. That's what I have at tier 2. Again, on the screen one more time, if you want to see what it looks like with full abilities, right there, right above me. We'll cover all this on in our Discord. I'll just put this graphic up there. That way y'all can see it. And if any of y'all are struggling to read it, because I did put all 3 on the screen at once, I'll just read them off to you. So if we're talking about Dukat, I think I said Damar was on the right side. Garak is on the right side, but Garak maxes out at 60%. Damar maxes out at 50% for his officer ability, and then Dukat maxes out at 50% as well for his officer's ability, if y'all are struggling to read that. All right, so there's all 3, and that's how they work. Let's go ahead and jump into some logs. I did some PvP earlier. Thank you to the players on server 20 who came in and helped me. There was quite a few of them, so a big thank you to them. We got Titus, Archangel, Walkabout. Those are the 2 that helped the most. Ghost Rider, those 3. Thank y'all for that. Also, let me check. We've been PvPing a lot, so we got to protect our nodes, man. Nodes been getting kind of scary. Anybody else having scary nodes? Probably just me because I PvP so much in War Alliance. So let's take a look at some of these logs. I do want to take a quick note and give some love to a particular ship. You know it. It's the Defiant. Now I use the full strike team crew here going against a partial battleship crew with the Katinga, punched up twice my weight, and took down the Katinga pretty easily. Should be noted that my D4, which is a tier 5 D4, I tried this with the D4 and was not able to do it. So come down here. Here's my D4, same exact setup, trying to punch up to the Katinga. Didn't work. So a little bit of love to the Defiant here. Once I've got it tiered up appropriately, it did do a little bit with PvP with the strike team on it. So got to give it some love. It's obviously I could have maxed out a D4 by now, which a max D4 would have been stronger than a Defiant. But you know, I've got a level, actually a tier 6 D4 here. And yeah, I think that was pretty cool, worth noting. Took down a Katinga with a specialty ship. So that's worth talking about. And that also kind of speaks to the power of the strike team crew. Now, we talk about how good they can be. Let's talk about countering real quick. And I told Archangel to put this crew on: Yuki, Honor Guard Worf, and Kang. Now, realistically, if I had that max Damar that I'm talking about, which can zero out critical damage, thus causing 0 hits, you wouldn't want to bring Honor Guard Worf. But the best way to counter the strike team is to bring an anti-critical crew like TOS Uhura, TOS Kirk, and then Kang, something like that. I did not zero out any damage here because my Damar is not strong enough. I will show you proof in a log that it can happen and does happen here in a second. But you can counter this crew, but I found that when they fight each other, you'll see, it gets really squirrely. It's basically who has the best Damar. So we talked about the battleship team, really the rare, which would be Una that you saw probably being the best. This one, Damar, a rare, probably being the best, but also Dukat is actually a really good card, and Garak is pretty good too, because we're getting more criticals here. It's a critical build. We do like it, but Damar is honestly another officer that could be used as a sidecar as an anti-critical officer. Now, you do need to keep in mind that how he works, but this anti-critical build is arguably the strongest available in the game. The reason being, it's the same way that we took advantage of like Gala working. It doesn't take away the chance of a critical happening. It actually wants a critical to happen. And when a critical happens that has a bonus that gets knocked down to 0 because this stacks together, well, then you do no damage. Because if you did 1 million times 0, well, mathematicians out there, what is that? 0. Does anybody in the chat see the power of what Damar can bring as you tier him up? Let's look at a couple more logs here. So this is Ghost Rider. Shout out to him for helping out. This is the Defiant taking out a Valdor, running just a basic Kirkspot Con. It's not a great crew for a Valdor in terms of PvP, but it's a generic one that many are familiar with, and pretty easily beating that, even though losing against the triangle. So I'm breaking the triangle here pretty effectively. Yes, there are better and more optimal crews some of these players could have run. That wasn't the point. It was to show off the crew. But Interceptor Strike Team, much harder to flip on than the Explorer Strike Team, for those who remember, which was, in my opinion, a good bit easier. A couple more of these I want to show you, just to show you some lower level ships. Here's the Saladin going against a Strike Team crew here, where they've actually brought Lorca for Hull Breach, which I don't remember why they ended up doing that. I think it was just what they threw on for the video. But here you go, winning pretty handily, again, using the Strike Team crew if you were a player in the lower levels who were able to grab it. But let's take a look at some other, like, kind of like some shockers. How about this one right here on the screen? This is a Hegta, 67 million, taking down a Sanctus at 266 million because of how the strike team works. Because whoever gets their Damar going first, whoever gets that big Damar going first, that's who ends up winning the fight. Because that Sanctus can be as big and bad as possible, but when it starts doing 0 damage, that's it. So this Sanctus not having that Damar either reach it first or not having a max Damar yet ends up losing to a ship that is several levels and, in all intents and purposes, significantly weaker than it, but still the Hegta showing life. And this is the pro and con of Strike Team as a whole, the entire sets that have come out. They can flip the triangle. They can actually make it to where you can take down a high level player. The only problem is they work inside their own little box. So if you were to go max to max, like tier 5 Damar versus tier 5 Damar, 2 interceptors, well, the big one's probably still going to win. But if you manage to catch somebody where maybe your crew is better or more leveled up, or they don't have it, you're going to get some pretty crazy screenshots like this. Now, for those of you going, hey, what about all these other ships? How does it perform against straight battleship crew? The battleship crew right here, good example, still will do significant damage, but you do end up winning, where we've seen the Interceptor crew beat the Explorer crew, it has happened with them both running together. So it does still operate within the triangle and has the potential to flip the triangle. It's a positive many of you are curious about. But what if we take it another step further? I know, another step, Rev. Do we really need to go another step? Well, I think we do. And the reason I think we do is I got to show you proof of what I'm talking about. And when I say proof of what I'm talking about, I want to show you that zero damage does actually exist. It does happen, and it can be quite scary. So this was actually one of our friends of the channel. You can see them doing 0 damage. This is a Sanctus versus Sanctus. It's the same thing that you saw in that Hegta, except this is 2 Sancti going after each other. I assume that's the plural of Sanctus. But as you can see, our friend on the left doing no damage because of a tier 5 Damar on the right side. Now these Sanctuses were equal strength. And if y'all want to get the full log of this, we'll have it in my Discord because he's a very kind individual and I appreciate him helping out. So it's Reaper, by the way. Shout out to Reaper. I appreciate it. So you can see how the power of Strike Team for Interceptors, and we'll talk about Battleship in our next video, how they can be so overwhelmingly strong, especially as you tier them up. Explorers, I give credit for being versatile, but man, especially this Damar character, really, really good. And the good thing about Damar is you don't necessarily have to use him for the Interceptor Strike Team. Now, they do work great as a unit, and I really recommend running them as a unit. But overall, there you go. Now let's get to that part that some of you wanted. It's the end of the video. Here it is. This is what y'all are asking for. This was the event that launched early. Now, the way it works is I can discuss anything that was seen in game. So I'm actually allowed to talk about this, and I'll just leave it up here for you to peruse. You can clearly see Captain Spock here from the movie series on the screen. You can also read some of the finer details, which feel free to get your magnifying glass out here and read. Explore hostiles using a battleship. Okay. Gain bonus points by slotting Fleet Commander Spock. Must have an on-duty skill unlocked that affects scoring. Completing this event scores towards the We Are the Borg event. That's all I can say. For those who missed it, here you go. And this gives you a little bit of a preview maybe to what could be coming this month. I will go ahead and tell y'all, and I've told my Twitch channel this. If y'all have not joined the Twitch channel, please come and join us, twitch.tv/RevDeuce. I am more excited about January than I was in previous months, and I think y'all are going to like a lot of the things that come in, and here gives you a little snippet of it. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully it helps you. You saw some examples of how to use things, and hopefully that incursions chest that y'all can start working on unlocking some of these officers. Live long and prosper. Stay safe for those space cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Catch you on the next Star Trek Fleet Command video. I'm out. Appreciate you. Love you.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.